Hey guys, so I'm going to tell you about how Joe Manchin, all the corporate Democrats, and every single Republican is a liar. There's definitive proof. There's no question about it. They can't even argue with it. Um, of course, the question is, what are we going to do about it? All that's coming up in this video. But first, a note from our sponsors for live videos. Aspiration is a great place to put your money. You can get, depending on the situation, up to 5% interest rate. That's a monster interest rate. They've got different rates in different situations. Check that out. I plant trees with my debit card, so I've got a little jank Uygur forest. You could have your own forest. It's really cool, and they don't put your if you got it in a big bank, they put it in. They take your money and invest it in oil companies, private prisons, etc. Aspiration does not do that. So have peace of mind. Aspiration.com/TYT. Aspiration.com/TYT. Okay, so now speaking of money, Joe Manchin and all of Congress now just passed a $768 billion defense spending bill. No debate, no discussion, no filibusters, no parliamentarians. In the Senate, it sailed through 89-10. Every corporate Democrat, every corporate Republican, high five of more wars. Waste. It's a context on that in a second. And every one of them was like, debt? What name so? I don't care at all. Yes, yes, yes. Including Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin just last week said, oh, my God. I asked Admiral Mike Mullen once when he was testifying in Congress as the former Joint Chiefs head. He was the top-ranking military official in the country. And I asked him what was the biggest threat. And he said the debt. And it shook me to my core. Okay, well, that's a $786 billion bill. That should shake you way more to your core. Now, the important context, guys. Build back better. We can't have it because I don't know how I can get there. I'll get to that quote too. But he said, basically, I can't do it. It costs too much money. And he said his stated concern was the debt and the deficit. And that's when he gave that Mike Mullen example. Okay. So, but wait a minute now. Build Back Better used to be $3.5 trillion over a decade. That's the accounting, right? They want to make it seem like it's bigger. That's why they say that it is over a decade. That's how they do the accounting. So it seems like, I don't know if we should pass this stuff that helps the American people. It's so big. $3.5 trillion. Then Manchin and his corporate goon friends cut it down to $1.75 trillion. Well, that still sounds like a lot. And we're in the trillions, right? Poor defense spending is only $768 billion. Xiao. Tiny. That means small in Chinese. Okay. Except, wait, that's over 1 year. Over 10 years, the same apples to apples comparison. That's over 7.8 trillion. Wait a minute. Hold on. How come we can't afford 1.75 trillion, but we can easily afford 7.8 trillion? Now, you tell me you're concerned about the debt and deficit. We spend more than the 9 other largest defense spending countries in the world combined, right? So, okay, now look, what Manchin and the other liars, and by the way, remember, all the corporate Democratic goons, which is like 80% of the Democratic Party, say the same thing, same party line. Well, I mean, a lot of them say, oh, no, we need Build Back Better. I don't agree with Joe on that. Wink. Unless it comes down to my vote, in which case I'm going to vote with the donors. But I like having Joe out front and take all the bullets for me, okay? And he thinks that helps him. It's a long story on the political machinations of that. But every corporate Democrat, though, when they turn around and get the deficit spending on the defense bill, they're like, I love it, yes. And it's the same guys who will say, lowering drug prices. It could cost too much. Wait, that doesn't make any sense. It costs the individuals, American citizens, less money, and it costs the government less money if we can negotiate drug prices. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Defense is spend, right? So, okay. How about the Republicans? Every Republican's a liar. Every Republican says about Build Back Better, my God, child tax credit. Give you guys money for kids so you can take care of your kids. Paid family leave so you don't have to go back to work the minute after you deliver. Sometimes literally the day after you deliver. No, don't want it. Too much. Costs too much. Can't do it. lower drug prices, it actually saves money. I don't care. I'm going to lie. I'm going to pretend it costs too much. And I'm going to have Jake Tapper and everybody in mainstream media lie on my behalf. How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? Is Jake Tapper and everybody on cable news screaming today, this $7.68 trillion monstrosity, right? Over 10 years, same time period. How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to pay for it? You see Anderson Cooper that? No. Everybody. Oh, it's going to the military industrial complex. Defense contractors that advertise on all of our shows. Defense contractors that give money to almost every politician in the country. All of a sudden, we can pay for that, and it's no problem at all. Nobody cares about the debt or the deficit. Now, they could say, no, Cenk, you're a bleeding heart liberal. You're a softie. We need more subs and aircraft carriers and nukes. And by the way, a giant percentage of which we know won't even work. We'll flush trillions down the toilet, but it's okay because I need to be safe. And I believe it. I believe it in my core. Well, okay, but you can't say it's about the deficit and the debt. You can say, hey, I don't mind spending money on war. I don't mind spending money on weapons, including incredibly expensive weapons we're never, ever, ever going to use. But by the way, a lot of which is because they don't even work, and I'm going to have no accountability there. Okay, and you can say, hey, I don't care about your kids. I don't care about whether you can make a living. I don't care if you have lower drug prices or if you can't afford your drug prices and it kills you. I don't care. You can say all that and you're not a liar. But you can't say when it comes to lower drug prices and paid family leave and all those things, we can't afford it, and then turn around and support a bill that is more than 4 times as large per year. By the way, it's actually worse than that. Forget the fact that every year the Pentagon budget rises. Forget that our own greedy, crooked politicians add lard on top of that. Because, for example, in this budget, the Congress approved a budget that was $24 billion higher than what the Pentagon had requested. The Pentagon request is already outrageous and bloated. They stuff every ham sandwich they can think of in there, turn it into a golden ham sandwich and charge you $2.5 million for it. They slaughtered it with all that pork so they could all get filthy rich. And all those generals retire, then becomes a part of the defense contractor companies, and they gorge on that pork. And Congress said, not enough. We're going to add $24 billion of pork on top of that. Okay, you can say you need it. You can say you hate the children and you hate the average American worker and you don't want them to have lower drug prices or any leave at all, and you want them back in the mines and working for corporations. You can say all of that, but you can't say you're doing it because of the debt and the deficit. Because when you pass bills like the defense spending bill that they just passed, that's saying, I don't give a goddamn about the deficit. I was lying the whole time. I just want to make sure it doesn't go to you guys. If it goes to my donors in the form of defense contractors, then Joe Manchin is in. Corporate Republicans are in. Corporate Democrats are in. By the way, not corporate Republicans. Every Republican is in. Every liar like Rand Paul, libertarian, I don't think we should give money. Oh, your family was blown away by a hurricane. I don't care. I'm a libertarian. What about the deficit? Oh, you like giant defense contractor bloated with money? Take it. Take it. Who cares? I'm just kidding. I'm lying. Where's my money? Donors, lobbyists, where's my money? Every one of them, every Republican, and nearly every Democrat. And definitely on the very top of that list is the biggest liar of all, Joe Manchin. Well, to be fair to Joe Manchin, you could say, is he really the biggest liar? Or is that Joe Biden who said, oh, I'm going to get Manchin to do these things and I care so much about this agenda and I want to build back better. Oh, defense bill, spend it, spend it, spend it. Who cares? Build back better. Oh, golly gee, Joe says we can't do it. If Joe Manchin says I can't, Joe Biden, what am I going to do? Am I going to do it? I don't know what accent that was that I just gave on Biden. But every one of you knows that everything I'm saying is 100% true. It doesn't matter where you are on the political spectrum. The only people who don't agree, it's not right-wingers, it's not left-wingers, it's not anybody in the middle. The only people who don't agree are the reporters in this country. The reporters say, no, these politicians are honest. They're the most honest people, and they're to be revered. That is Senator Joe Manchin. How could you say every Republican is lying? They are beloved, cherished elites. These are the politicians, the creme de la creme. They're the greatest. They have honest, principled debates. And then mainstream media wonders why they've lost credibility. And in the polling, no one believes them about anything. That's because you've been lying on behalf of the powerful our whole lives. And whether it's right wing or left wing, we're sick of it. There's so many things that show how it's obvious that the politicians do not work for us. It's obvious they're not having honest debates. It's obvious they're not acting out of principle. It's obvious they don't care about the debt or the deficit. The only thing they care about is their own personal money, fame, and power. So if Lockheed Martin is a defense contractor and they pay Joe Manchin, or if it's Raytheon or Boeing or Northrop Grumman or any of them, Joe Manchin works for them. ExxonMobil pays Joe Manchin works for them. Every real American knows this. The only people lying about it are the people who are supposed to bring you the truth, the reality, and the news. And that's mainstream media, because they're not news. They're the marketing arm of corporate rule. Don't let them trick you. They just passed a totally needless bill. Do you need defense? Of course you need defense. Do you need it to be this large? Of course not. It's pork extraordinaire. It's what's dragging down the deficit and the debt in the first place. We don't need to spend more than the 9 other largest spending countries combined, including China, Russia, and all of our so-called competitors. No, the only reason to do that is it's a great way to funnel trillions of dollars in pork without anyone daring to question you. Because you say, hey, defense, national security, you're all going to die if we don't do this. So that's why I had to give it to my friends who gave me a couple $1 million in campaign donations and a couple million or 10 million or 100 million to CNN, New York Times, etc., Politico, Axios, all those guys. They gave them all that money for advertising, even though none of their readers buy a damn thing. They don't buy missiles. The government buys missiles, but we did advertising with them anyway. Why? Because we needed marketing for corporate rule. And these are the lies that our government and unfortunately all of Washington, D.C. at this point is built upon. That's the reality. And I'll end on Manchin's hilarious quote. He said, oh my God, when he came to Build Back Better and your families and lower drug prices and taking care of your kids and universal pre-K, he said, I've tried everything possible. I can't get there. Apparently, if you said, hey, you know what, while taking care of my kids, I'll build a nuke, he would have been like, yeah, I can get there. Okay. And while I'm building that nuke, I give you a couple $1 million in campaign donations. All of a sudden, well, golly gee, I just found one other thing I could do. It turns out the answer is yes. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? But when it comes to taking care of the average American that did not donate to their campaigns, they don't give a damn because they're corrupt, they're crooks, and they're liars. And it's insane that your national media is not telling you that. It's telling you the opposite and covering up for them. That's the reality. All right. Nonetheless, happy holidays. Despite all that, I do this in a good mood. Maybe it's the coffee. Plug time. Too Strong Coffee. They still have the Christmas sales. Go nuts. Okay. They don't donate to politicians, though. That's their problem. They donate to progressive causes. Knuckleheads in Too Strong Coffee. Trying to do the right thing for the world. They got the Santa's Progressive Jesus too. You can still get it. All those are still up. Most importantly, you can get over $50 off on some of those packages. So go and do that before they take it down around New Year's, my guess. Anyway, TooStrongCoffee.com/TYT. Much love. See you guys soon.